You think willpower is the problem. It isn't. Willpower is a spark. Self-discipline is an engineered system, and this video will teach you how to build that system step by step. In the next audio, you'll get the precise mental models, daily rituals, and measurable rules that professionals use to stop drifting and start finishing. You'll hear concrete micro-protocols you can implement tonight, a 30-day resilience plan that prevents relapse, and the exact failure modes to avoid so discipline becomes a default, not a struggle. Listen to the whole video, skip a section, and you'll miss the one simple tweak that turns intention into irreversible progress. Chapter 1. The Architecture of Discipline. Systems, not willpower. Self-discipline is not a heroic burst of will, it is architecture. Treating discipline as a series of ad hoc decisions, I'll resist dessert tonight, is the fastest route to exhaustion and failure. Sustainable discipline is a designed system composed of structural elements, environment, routines, friction management, micro-goals, and feedback. The first task in any discipline project is to stop improvising and build the scaffolding that converts intention into automatic behavior. Begin by mapping the behavior you want in empirical detail. Don't say, "I want to be disciplined." Say, "I will write 600 words 5 days a week between 8 and 9 a.m. on the kitchen table with my phone in airplane mode." Concrete specification shrinks the decision space and removes the mental argument that kills follow-through. Next, design environment constraints that reduce reliance on momentary willpower. Willpower depletes, environment persists. If your goal is better sleep, make the bedroom a phone-free room. Remove chargers and put a manual alarm clock in. If you want to read instead of watch late-night videos, move the TV plug into an inaccessible position and keep the book at the bedside. Friction works both ways. Add friction to undesired behaviors. Uninstall apps, require a password you don't know by heart, and remove friction for desired ones. Preload study materials, keep workout clothes at the door. Then create micro-goals and rituals. Micro-goals are the daily, measurable outputs that tell you whether the system is functioning. A production target, a time-on-task target, or a simple binary, did the ritual start or not? Rituals, tiny preparatory sequences, prime your brain. Brew tea, open the document, set a 2-minute breathing cue, then start. Rituals convert intention into classical conditioning. The sequence becomes an automated trigger. Feedback loops are essential. Without rapid feedback, you cannot correct course. Track tiny metrics, session counts, words written, reps completed, minutes of focused work. Visualize the data in a simple weekly dashboard so you see streaks and slippage. Pair the tracking with a weekly review ritual where you ask neutral diagnostic questions. Did the system produce output? Where was the friction? What environmental change removes that friction? Finally, design recovery and redundancy. Discipline systems break. People get sick, travel, or burn out. Build fallback protocols. Scale down versions of the habit that preserve identity. 20 minutes of focused work instead of an hour. A 10-minute mobility routine instead of a full gym session. Redundancy prevents a single missed session from collapsing a streak into abandonment. Discipline architecture is engineering, not moralizing. When you design the environment, the ritual, the friction, and the feedback, willpower becomes a modest reserve, not the primary driver. Start the architecture work tonight. Pick one behavior and apply these 5 design steps. The next morning, test whether you started automatically. If you did, your system is beginning to work. Chapter 2. The Micro-Habit Method, Scaling Down to Scale. Up big goals. Kill discipline because our brains evaluate them as distant and uncertain. Micro-habits are the antidote. The micro-habit method converts overwhelming objectives into atomic, invulnerable behaviors you can execute daily with minimal resistance. The core rule is simple: make it too small to refuse. If your goal is fitness, the micro-habit could be 2 push-ups after brushing teeth. If the goal is learning, commit to 2 minutes of vocabulary review. The paradox is that tiny actions aggregate into identity change. Repeatedly showing up for the smallest unit rewires belief. I am the kind of person who shows up. Practically implement micro-habits with 3 mechanisms: anchoring, escalation, and packaging. Anchoring ties the new micro-habit to an existing stable cue. After I pour coffee, I will do the micro-habit. Escalation is the built-in growth rule. After a set number of consecutive completions, increase the dose slightly. Add 1 push-up, add 1 minute, add 1 extra page. Escalation ensures progress without overwhelming the system. Packaging bundles micro-habits into meaningful blocks, the mini-session. 10 micro-habits of 1 minute each can equal a substantial practice session if you sequence them with intention. Then track with a simple accountability mechanism, a visible calendar check, a habit tracker app, or a brief daily log. The social dimension enhances durability. Publicly commit to 1 micro-habit in a small group and post a daily check-in. Micro-habits also solve the avoidance problem. When the brain wants to procrastinate, the micro-habit is acceptable, and once engaged, momentum often carries you into the fuller session. Use the 2-minute rule. When a task will take less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. Recast your discipline targets into 2-minute entry points and let momentum expand them. Beware the micro-habit paradox, where tiny actions become excuses for never expanding. The escalation plan prevents stagnation by design. Finally, measure cumulative effect, monthly, not daily. Chapter 3. Identity Work. Why who you believe you are determines what you will do. Discipline hangs on identity. Systems and micro-habits fail when they are inconsistent with someone's self-narrative. Changing behavior requires reframing identity, shifting self-descriptions from "I try" to "I am." The process is not mystical, it is tactical. Start by articulating the minimal identity you want to inhabit. Don't invent grand statements, define a narrow persona. I am someone who finishes morning writing sessions, not I am a writer. The specificity makes the identity actionable. Then design evidence-based identity reinforcement. Choose daily actions that produce undeniable proof of the identity. If the identity is a disciplined exerciser, the evidence could be 5 consistent gym sessions captured on a simple log, and a weekly metric of volume improved. Positive evidence is cumulative and shapes belief. Next, employ small-scale public commitments. Identity crystallizes rapidly when social reality reflects it. Announce your identity to a small, trusted group with the exact observable criterion. I will complete 5 writing sessions this week. Social expectations create a mild enforcement pressure that seals identity through reputation. Use narrative reframing in self-talk. When you face temptation, replace "I can't" with "I don't." "I don't check social media during my writing hour" is a declarative identity statement that limits bargaining. Chapter 4. Energy Management. The biological base of discipline Behavioral systems collapse when the body is ignored. Discipline requires energy. Without basic physiological management, even well-designed rituals fail. Energy management is not diet fads, but foundational routines: sleep, nutrition, movement, and stress regulation. Prioritize sleep by scheduling consistent sleep windows and treating them as non-negotiable meetings. Insufficient sleep reduces prefrontal control, making temptation resistance fragile. Nutrition should support steady cognitive performance, protein at breakfast, moderate carbohydrates timed for activity, and hydration protocols for focus. Avoid long fasting on high-demand days unless you plan compensating strategies. Movement is both preventive and restorative. Short daily mobility and strength sessions increase baseline energy and reduce long-term attrition. Implement micro-movements, standing breaks, 2-minute activation sets during long mental blocks to restore circulation and attention. Stress regulation is essential. Practice a daily, short breathing routine, 5 to 10 minutes, or a brief mindfulness check to down-regulate cortisol and enhance self-control. Use heart rate variability, HRV, or subjective readiness scores to tune effort. Chapter 5, The Tactics of Temptation, Pre-Commitment, Friction, and Environment Design. Temptation is predictable. Design counters into your system. Pre-commitment is the most reliable tactic. Lock in future behavior when your agency is high. Examples: schedule payments for a gym membership, set calendar blocks with notifications for deep work, or sign up for a class with a cancellation fee. Financial commitments harness loss aversion. Social commitments leverage reputation. Friction is another lever. Add friction to bad behaviors and remove it from good ones. Place your phone in another room during focused hours, use website blockers, and require a small, deliberate step to access distracting platforms. Change passwords weekly and store them in a difficult-to-reach place. Conversely, make the desired behavior effortless. Pre-cut vegetables for healthy evenings, pre-open your coding environment, or lay out running gear at night. Environment design includes visible cues for new habits. Post a short index card with your session intention on your workspace, or create a Do Not Disturb signal that family members respect. Chapter 6. Rituals of Momentum. Building consistent execution with tiny wins. Momentum is produced by tiny, consecutive wins. Ritualize the beginning and end of every session to create a predictable start signal and a simple closure that registers progress. The start ritual might be a short breathing pattern, a single sentence intention, and a 2-minute preparatory action that lowers activation energy. The end ritual is the capture, documenting what was produced, and the single next step. This closure is crucial. It eliminates fuzzy transitions that lead to avoidance. Use visible micro-wins, check marks on a wall calendar, an automated output file, or a 30-second voice note describing progress. Micro-wins serve 2 functions. They generate immediate reward signals, and they produce a public record that strengthens identity. Make weekly and monthly progress visible by aggregating micro-wins into tangible artifacts: a week's worth of pages written, a montage of short recordings, or a simple spreadsheet showing incremental gains. Use these artifacts during your weekly review to get disproportionate motivational boosts. Rituals also protect long sessions from decision decay. Predefine breakpoints, use short physical resets, and apply a 1 more minute rule to end sessions intentionally. Finally, design celebration micro-rituals that honor consistency, a special tea after a full week of sessions, a short walk with a favorite podcast. Ritualized momentum converts small actions into an upward emotional spiral that is self-sustaining. Chapter 7. Feedback Systems. Measure. What matters? Correct fast. Feedback is the compass for discipline. Without it, you steer blindly. Start by choosing a small set of leading indicators that are tightly coupled to desired outcomes: session completion rate, average focused minutes per session, words produced, or number of solved problems. Leading indicators tell you about process health. Lagging indicators, income, weight, promotions, confirm long-term success, but are slow. Build rapid feedback loops daily before/after logs, weekly dashboards, and a short, ruthless monthly review. In reviews, don't moralize poor results, diagnose process faults. Was the cue missing? Did the environment create friction? Was the energy low? Map each failure to a single corrective experiment for the next week. Experimentation is the operational science of discipline. Run tiny tests, change session time, move location, add a start ritual, and measure impact. Use A/B style testing for habits where applicable. Run 2 different start rituals for 2 weeks and compare focus scores. Public feedback can multiply leverage. Work with a coach, an accountability partner, or a small group to get rapid external input. Finally, institutionalize learning. Document failed hypotheses and successful tweaks in a simple log so the system learns over time. Feedback loops shrink the learning cycle, improve precision, and convert random effort into predictable progress. Chapter 8. The Social Dimension. How others shape your discipline. You are embedded in social networks that can either erode or amplify discipline. Structure social environments intentionally. First, curate your immediate circle. Spend more time with people who model the behaviors you want and reduce exposure to habitual detractors. This is not social coldness, it is selective alignment. Second, use social contracts, explicit agreements with peers that define expectations and verification modes, weekly reports, observable artifacts, or public demonstrations. Contracts create predictable social cost for slippage and predictable reward for consistency. Third, design your public signals, what you post, who you collaborate with, and what you celebrate publicly, as deliberate reinforcements of your desired identity. Public signals recruit supportive behavior and create opportunity structures. Fourth, leverage group rituals. Join or create small cohorts with synchronous practice windows, writing sprints, co-study sessions, or group workouts that exploit peer energy and reduce isolation. Fifth, defend against social sabotage by scripting polite deflections for temptations offered by others. I'm avoiding alcohol during my training cycle. Can we meet for coffee instead? Social design transforms interpersonal friction into scaffolding for discipline. Chapter 9. Failure Protocols. How to recover without collapse. Relapse is inevitable. What matters is recovery protocol. The first rule: remove moral judgment. Shame freezes behavior. Procedural response accelerates it. Create a pre-defined recovery protocol. Immediate documentation of what went wrong. A 1-week micro-challenge that re-establishes streak momentum, and an adjustment to the environment that prevents recurrence. For example, missing 3 workouts triggers a 3-day guaranteed mini-routine, an audit of schedule conflicts, and a temporary calendar lock to protect future sessions. Use small guaranteed wins to rebuild identity quickly. 2 minutes of action today rather than grand promises tomorrow. Social support is vital. Notify an accountability partner with a brief factual update and the recovery plan. Externalization reduces rumination and speeds restart. Learn from failures with curiosity. Treat each relapse as an experiment outcome and extract a single improvement. Over time, compile a relapse playbook of patterns and fixes. This institutional memory prevents the same mistake from repeating. Chapter 10. Long-term calibration. From sprint to marathon. Discipline is a long game. Avoid chronic overreach by calibrating intensity and duration. Use periodization, cycles of intensity, 90 days of focused work, followed by strategic regeneration, 2-week, lighter phases. Periodization preserves novelty, reduces injury and burnout, and increases peak capacity over years. Align goals with life stages. Intensity plans for building career capital are different from those for family-heavy seasons. Build durable systems, automate savings, document procedures, and create delegation pathways so critical projects survive temporary absences. Finally, cultivate patience. Small daily wins compound non-linearly over years. Track multi-year metrics, skill inventory, financial runway, and network depth to maintain perspective. Discipline sustained with wise calibration becomes not a series of frantic attempts, but a steady, resilient path to mastery. Chapter 11. The Discipline of Focus. Building unbreakable deep work. Block's focus is the practical currency of discipline. Without the ability to concentrate for extended blocks, even the best systems produce shallow activity rather than durable results. This chapter gives you an operational program to convert scattered attention into scheduled deep work that becomes habitual. Begin by defining the atomic unit of performance for your most important work. What single output, produced repeatedly, aligns directly with your highest leverage objective. For a writer, it might be a coherent 600-word argument section. For a developer, a tested feature that passes the unit tests. For an entrepreneur, 2 validated customer conversations. Name that unit and protect the time required to deliver one of them reliably. The next step is to design a physical and digital ritual that lowers the activation energy for the block. A consistent pre-work sequence of 5 actions conditions your nervous system. 1. Physical prep, glass of water, brief posture reset. 2. 2 deep breaths to lower sympathetic tension. 3. A 1-sentence intention written in the present tense. I will complete X in this session. 4. An environmental check, notifications off, window closed. And 5. A visible timer set for the block length. Rituals make starting automatic. Choose block length based on task complexity and energy rhythms. Many people achieve optimal returns at 50 to 90 minutes. Others do better with repeated 25 to 45-minute blocks depending on fatigue. Track your flow density metric, the proportion of the block spent in uninterrupted work. Aim initially for 50% and push toward 80% over weeks. Reduce friction by removing micro-decisions. Create a single, working profile on your device that opens the exact documents, tabs, and tools you need. Use profile-specific browser containers so only the necessary sites are available. Preload templates and checklists so you do not spend minutes deciding where to start. Chapter 12. Attention. Hygiene. Eliminating micro-distractions and reclaiming time. Modern life invents tiny interruptions that over weeks and months steal entire capabilities. Attention hygiene is the set of explicit practices that prevent this erosion. Start by mapping your current attention drains for 1 week. Use a minute-by-minute log or an app that tracks idle time, notifications, and context switches. You'll quickly find the usual suspects: notifications, tab proliferation, social media, shallow multitasking, and the disguised productivity apps that fragment attention. The first hygiene rule is to apply the principle of single-purpose environments. Designate specific tools or devices for single categories of activity: one device for deep work, another for communication, a read-only tablet for long-form consumption. This reduces the temptation to pivot from a productive task into a distracting app. Next, consolidate notifications. Triage them into 3 buckets: immediate, calls from close family, or key stakeholders; deferred, non-urgent messages collected into a single twice-daily review; and filtered, newsletter or promotional material auto-archived. Use granular notification settings by app and by contact. The default "allow everything" is the enemy of sustained effort. Implement temporal boundaries. Schedule fixed windows for shallow work such as email and meetings, and defend contiguous blocks of deep work. Even a single daily protected 2-hour window has outsized returns. Chapter 13. The Discipline of Decision. Fast, low drag. Choices that preserve willpower. Decision fatigue is a stealthy enemy of discipline because each small choice consumes finite self-regulatory resources. The discipline of decision involves systematizing the small choices so your willpower is preserved for the few strategic decisions that matter. Start by identifying the daily micro-decisions you make that cumulatively add up: what to wear, what to eat, which email to answer first, what task to begin. For each class, design a default. Defaults reduce load. A weekly menu plan eliminates food choices that degrade discipline. A simple clothing rotation for workdays removes morning friction. An inbox triage rule, process in 2-minute micro answers, delegate or schedule, prevents constant re-evaluation. Use pre-commitment strategies for more consequential categories. Automate savings, pre-schedule recurring gym sessions, or purchase a monthly subscription to a service you will use rather than deciding anew each month. For choices that require values alignment, create a decision rubric with 3 core criteria: impact, reversibility, and alignment with goals, and apply the rubric as a rapid filter. Teach yourself to use time-boxed decision windows. Defer non-urgent choices to a dedicated daily slot, and avoid making small decisions in the depleted late afternoon. Embrace good enough standards for low-value decisions. Perfectionism on trivial matters costs willpower. For higher stakes decisions, use lightweight analytic protocols. Define the decision, list plausible options, no more than 5, enumerate critical variables, and pick a testable next step. If uncertainty is high, convert uncertainty into a small experiment with clear metrics and a short horizon. Maintain a decision log that records rationales for large choices. This builds an institutional memory that reduces future re-evaluation. Socially, delegate decisions when appropriate. Empower trusted colleagues for routine direction, and reserve your cognitive capital for unique, strategy-level problems. Automate where possible. Rules-based systems, if X then Y, for recurring tasks, eliminate repeated deliberation. Finally, protect your mornings. The early window holds disproportionate decision-making capacity. Schedule critical choices then, and reserve afternoons for execution. The discipline of decision does not remove judgment. It organizes it so that judgment is used where its marginal value is highest. You will find that preserving decision bandwidth is one of the simplest, highest leverage moves you can make for sustained discipline. Chapter 14. The neurochemistry of habits. Use reward and dopamine to your advantage. Habits are neurochemical loops. Understanding and leveraging reward systems turns discipline from struggle into momentum. Dopamine is not simply a pleasure chemical, but a signal for prediction and motivation. Anticipation of reward fuels action. To harness this system, design your habit loops with clear, immediate, and appropriate rewards. Start with micro rewards tied to completion, visible check marks, brief, pleasurable cues, or social confirmations that occur immediately after the desired behavior. These short-term reinforcements create the anticipatory loop that primes future action. Pair predictable long-term rewards to the habit architecture, a weekly aggregation that leads to a more substantial reward, a social outing, a small purchase, or creative time. Use variable reinforcement sparingly but strategically. Occasional unpredictable rewards increase engagement. Surprise praise message from a peer or an unexpected insight during practice, but should not replace consistent, reliable reinforcement. Leverage the power of progress visibility. Breaking big goals into smaller milestones produces a cascade of microdopamine hits as each milestone is reached. Represent progress visually. Calendars, progress bars, and simple graphs that provide immediate feedback and boost motivation. Avoid false rewards that undermine the habit. For example, scrolling social media as a post-work reward corrupts the system because it rewards distraction rather than productive output. Instead, choose restorative or confidence-building rewards, short walks, a piece of music, or a social message that reinforces identity. Biologically, stabilize baseline dopamine by supporting sleep, nutrition, and regular exercise. Irregular sleep and diet destabilize reward sensitivity and make habits brittle. Finally, be mindful of hedonic adaptation. As behaviors become routine, their reward value declines. Maintain novelty by rotating small elements within the habit. Vary the environment. Change the specific micro-task or add periodic novelty weeks to rekindle motivational intensity. When you design habit loops that respect neurochemistry, clear cue, manageable routine, and immediate, meaningful reward, you convert the biochemical machinery of motivation into a consistent engine for disciplined behavior. Chapter 15. Accountability, Structures. Designing high-leverage social pressure. Social accountability harnesses reputation and reciprocity to convert private discipline into public obligation, drastically increasing follow-through. This chapter provides blueprints for scalable accountability systems you can adopt individually or embed in teams. Start small with an accountability buddy, someone who shares a similar ambition, and define a tight, verifiable commitment with a simple verification modality: a short daily check-in message, a screenshot of output, a 60-second video. Public commitments amplify the effect. Declare one specific, measurable target to a small audience, an email list, a social feed, or a group chat, and provide weekly evidence of progress. The combination of public statement plus visible verification creates reputational cost for slippage. Structure escalatory accountability: a lightweight base layer, daily check-ins, a medium layer, weekly peer reviews with brief critique, and a high-pressure layer, monetary or reputational stakes, such as donations to an opposed charity on failure. Financial stakes are powerful loss aversion tools. Commit a modest sum that you forfeit on missed targets. For teams, adopt transparent scoreboards and short public demos. The rhythm of demonstration creates an expectation of completion that reduces procrastination. Use role-based accountability by assigning specific ownership to outcomes. Names attached to deliverables with clear deadlines reduce ambiguity and diffusion of responsibility. Facilitate accountability groups with defined rituals, a weekly 30-minute session where each member states last week's result, current week's commitment, and one specific ask or offer of help. Rotate roles so members also practice giving constructive feedback. Reciprocity increases engagement. Ensure psychological safety. Accountability must be about improvement, not punishment. Structure feedback norms, observations, not judgments, and require at least one positive reinforcement per critique. Finally, automate parts of accountability. Build simple tracking dashboards that pull verified outputs, commits, published posts, documents, and send automated summaries to the group. When social pressure is thoughtfully designed, predictable, fair, and paired with supportive feedback, it becomes the engine that converts daily discipline into long-term achievement. Chapter 16. Scaling Discipline in Teams, from individual habit to organizational practice. Individual discipline can be multiplied across teams if systems are codified and reinforced culturally. Start by making the implicit explicit. Document the core rituals, times, and expected outputs that constitute productive practice in simple, one-page operating principles. Use these playbooks for onboarding so new members adopt productive habits from day one. Structure synchronous rituals, short daily stand-ups, focused collaboration sprints, and weekly demo sessions that create a predictable rhythm and reduce coordination overhead. Invest in tooling that reduces administrative friction, lightweight task boards, shared templates, and automated progress reporting, so cognitive load is minimized. Chapter 17. Ethical Discipline, Aligning Willpower with Values and Avoiding Toxic Rigidity. Discipline without ethical reflection becomes rigid and self-destructive. This chapter teaches how to tether discipline to values and maintain humane flexibility. Start by articulating your core values in behavioral terms. What does integrity look like in your work? How does compassion show up in daily choices? Use these values as filters for discipline targets. Avoid goals that enhance personal metrics at the cost of others' well-being. Build deliberative pauses into your system, a brief ethics check before major actions, asking who benefits, who might be harmed. Is this aligned with my stated values? Allow for moral reversals, procedures that permit course correction when the discipline starts producing harm. Guard against toxic perfectionism by setting maximum daily or weekly limits on effort and enforcing recovery protocols. Chapter 18. The Practice of Rest. Why strategic downtime is a discipline. 2. Rest is an active, trainable skill and a crucial part of durable discipline. This chapter reframes rest as practice, planned, strategic, and measurable. Build rest into your schedule as non-negotiable blocks, daily micro-rest rituals, short walks, brief mindfulness, weekly restorative practices, longer physical sessions, social connection, and seasonal regeneration, short retreats, travel, or project sabbaticals. Treat rest like training. Periodize intensity with deliberate recovery windows. Track recovery indicators, sleep quality, HRV, mood, and adjust workload accordingly. Chapter 19. Sustaining momentum through life's seasons. Life is change. Discipline must be designed to survive seasons, not burn out when circumstances shift. This chapter is a practical guide to maintaining momentum when work intensifies, family life expands, travel interrupts routines, health fluctuates, or goals evolve. The first principle is modularity. Build habits and systems as interchangeable modules that can be scaled down or swapped without collapsing your whole structure. Think of your daily architecture as Lego pieces. If travel removes your gym, a bodyweight 5-minute routine becomes the travel module. If a new baby reduces deep work hours, shift from a 2-hour focus block to 3 30-minute high-value sprints. Design each core habit with a minimum viable version so that when pressure hits you, preserve the essence rather than the form. The essence of movement might be increased heart rate for 10 minutes. The essence of learning might be one focused paragraph. The essence of client work might be one decision delivered. Next, pre-author contingency protocols. Write short scripts for common disruptions, illness, travel, family crisis, heavy workload that include immediate triage actions, a temporary micro-routine, and a one-week recovery plan. For example, illness protocol equals pause deep work, maintain 2 micro-habits, hydration plus 5-minute walk, postpone non-critical meetings, notify key stakeholders with a prepared message, and re-enter with a 2-day ramp-up plan. Having these scripts reduces decision friction during stress and prevents paralysis. Third, institutionalize buffer capacity. Maintain a time and financial margin so you can tolerate life's shocks without abandoning disciplines. Time buffers can look like protected flex blocks each week, 2 hours reserved for catch-up or rest, and financial buffers are rolling 3 to 6 week reserves that prevent panic when income dips. Buffer capacity buys you patience and reduces reactive abandonment of long-term systems. Fourth, consciously manage transitions with mini rites of passage. When roles change, new job, parenthood, relocation. Create short rituals that mark the shift and reset expectations, an evening of planning, a public note to close old commitments, a compact first 30 days plan that sets realistic micro goals. Rituals convert chaotic transitions into manageable projects that discipline can hold. Fifth, build network scaffolding. Momentum is social as much as individual. Cultivate a small group of peers or mentors who understand your seasons and provide targeted support. An accountability pod that tolerates life variability, a mentor who helps prioritize, and a freelance or staff buffer who can temporarily carry operational load. Outsource ruthlessly. Identify tasks you can delegate in high-stress months and have relationships pre-established, so delegation is fast and honorable. Sixth, apply substitution thinking rather than perfectionism. When the environment demands adaptation, ask, what is the minimum perfect alternative, rather than mourning what you can't do. Substitutions preserve identity because they keep the habit's intent intact even if form changes. Reading a summarized chapter if full reading is impossible, a short call instead of a long meeting, a note instead of a long essay. Seventh, measure what matters in seasons, not daily noise. Maintain a small set of seasonal KPIs, weekly deep work hours, monthly habit adherence percentage, monthly revenue or relationship contact score, and compare across 4 to 6 week windows to see trend lines rather than reacting to a single bad week. This perspective prevents short-term discouragement and keeps strategy intact. Eighth, practice psychological reframing. View interruption as information, not failure. Ask, what is this season teaching me? And extract one experiment idea. Maybe travel shows your ritual needs portability. A career pivot reveals which skills to prioritize. This learning stance converts disruption into design fuel. Ninth, maintain rituals of reconnection. Short, deliberate practices that restore rhythms after interruptions. A 2-hour reset weekend, a 30-minute planning session to re-anchor priorities, and a 1-page accountability restart to share with your pod. Finally, accept the long horizon. Momentum over years is a composite of adaptive consistency, not rigid schedules. The person who sustains discipline across decades is the one who designs systems for seasons, not the one who chases impossible constancy. Build modular habits, pre-author contingency, preserve buffers, delegate with dignity, and treat life's variability as a design constraint you can solve rather than a judge you must appease. When your discipline adapts, momentum becomes resilience, and resilience turns a life of disruptions into a life of sustained achievement. Chapter 20. Leaving a legacy of discipline, teaching, scaling, and stewardship. Discipline becomes transcendent when it scales beyond the self, when it builds teams, cultures, families, and institutions that outlast a single life. This chapter maps how to teach, institutionalize, and steward discipline so it becomes a legacy that multiplies impact. Start with transmission. The fastest way to teach discipline is to make it visible, repeatable, and scaffolded. Model rituals publicly, daily planning, clear decision scripts and brief postmortems, and create one-page playbooks that translate action into steps others can adopt. A playbook is not theory, it is a checklist with triggers, materials, timing, and acceptance criteria. For example, a client onboarding playbook contains the email template, kickoff agenda, delivery checklist, and escalation rules. A morning ritual playbook lists exact activities, duration, and failure restart steps. Playbooks convert tacit habit into teachable procedure. Second, design apprenticeship systems. Real discipline is acquired through guided practice, not lectures. Pair novices with experienced practitioners for co-work sprints, joint accountability, and rotating responsibility. Use short, frequent feedback cycles, 5 minutes of targeted critique after a co-work session. So learning accelerates. Apprenticeships embed culture because they create shared experience and specific standards. Third, institutionalize rituals and metrics. Organizations that value discipline build short, consistent rituals, daily stand-ups with one commitment, weekly reviews focused on leading indicators, and public dashboards of progress. Tie small recognition to ritual completion, public thanks, short story sharing, or micro bonuses for consistent adherence, so discipline is socially reinforced rather than only privately enforced. Fourth, create redundancy in leadership and process so discipline survives personnel changes. Document decision principles, mandate cross-training for critical roles, and use modular systems so a new person can step into a role without recreating the process. Fifth, protect the moral core. Discipline must be anchored to values that resist toxic overwork. Teach balance explicitly, define what sustainable discipline looks like, include recovery rituals in SOPs, and measure human-centered KPIs like retention, health metrics, and relational bandwidth. Legacy built on burnout collapses. Legacy built on stewardship persists. Sixth, build institutional learning loops, maintain a living experiment log, archive failures and their lessons, and host quarterly retrospective salons where teams synthesize learning into operational changes. A culture that rewards honest sharing and fast repair converts episodic excellence into durable capability. Seventh, scale teaching with layered pedagogy. Start with one-page playbooks, add micro-courses for deeper skills, then establish mentorship cohorts for advanced application. Each layer increases fidelity while keeping onboarding friction low. Eighth, plan succession and stewardship intentionally. Identify future stewards early, expose them to core rituals, and create staged responsibility transitions so stewardship is a taught role rather than an assumed inheritance. Ninth, use legacy to amplify impact ethically. Create scholarship funds, open-source playbooks, or community fellowships that democratize disciplined practice beyond your immediate circle. Discipline scaled publicly can uplift ecosystems when paired with access and humility. Finally, cultivate humility in legacy work. Acknowledge your failures, publish practical corrections, and always invite critique. Legacy is not finished at your lifetime. It is the capacity you bequeath for future generations to adapt, improve, and live by. Teach through modeling, codify through playbooks, institutionalize rituals, protect human dignity, and steward long-term learning. Conclusion: discipline as freedom and duty. Discipline is paradoxically both constraint and liberation. The constraints you choose free you from the chaos that steals possibility. Across these chapters, you've seen discipline as design, habits engineered, environments shaped, emotions regulated, and systems built to serve purpose.